Are you ready?
Yes.
Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from Skiessentials.com.
And I'm Bob looking wobbly on my blades.
I got Bob with me. I'm wearing the microphone. We thought we just needed a microphone on me, so it might be a little harder to hear Bob. But we're gonna do phase 2 of the Rollerblade Skate to Ski program, Bob.
All right, let's do it.
You excited?
I guess so.
Awesome, he's excited. So I thought it would be great to bring Bob into this because Bob has some rollerblading experience, but not a lot. And in my opinion, phase 2 is kind of like a stepping stone phase between what I took them through a couple weeks ago, Bob, where we did a lot of like beginner drills and really talked about like equipment choices and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then once we get to phase 3 and 4, we're basically past all the fundamentals and we're starting to put everything in place and really use them as drills for skiing. So we're gonna do a few things today that's kind of taking us from that beginner recreational stage through some drills that'll help take us to that next level. So we're gonna do some balance, excuse me, some balance and agility drills first. We're actually gonna turn the camera around and start on the grass. Then we're gonna do some angulation turns, Bob, which is basically carving. That's where things start to get really fun. Then we're gonna practice with our jumps because that's important. And then we're gonna do T-stops, which I will probably demonstrate because I don't have a brake. And then at the very end, we're gonna do some hill work. There's a nice hill at the other end of this road. So we're gonna skate up it and we're also gonna do some angulation turns down it. So what do you think, Bob? You ready for all this?
I guess so. Let's do it.
Okay, so we're gonna start over here in the grass just to be safe. All right, so we're over here in the grass. A lot of these drills, and this will become a bit of a theme as we go through skate to ski, a lot of them you can start in the grass because we're in a little bit of a safer environment here. So this first one that we're gonna do, there's two things. First, we're gonna do 2-leg horizontal side-to-side jumps, and then we're gonna do the same thing with 1 leg. And the key here, basically the purpose of this drill is to make sure that we're in a balanced position. So it's not gonna be too obvious here on the grass because it's kind of hard to roll. But say we were on the pavement and we were doing these jumps and you had your weight too far forward, your skates would want to slip out from behind you. You know, you often feel like you might start moving when you should just be staying planted. So what we want to do is get in a athletic stance. Bob, you can do it with me. I figure we'll jump left to right so we're not jumping into each other. And what we want to do here is make sure we're taking off on a balanced, centered stance and land on a balanced, centered stance. And kind of imagine, like say there's a line right here that we're jumping over. So really, all we're going to do is 2 feet together, jump, 2 feet together, jump. I'd say you want to do at least 8 to 10 of these, kind of get the hang of it. How you feeling, Bob?
I can do it. I did 2.
Yeah, so I feel pretty balanced here, pretty centered. I'm not feeling like I'm gonna wobble back and forth too much. We're gonna do the same thing on pavement, but before we do that, we're now gonna do single leg jumps. So same thing, but we're gonna go from 1 leg to the other leg, which I find much more challenging. And I think this is, in the long run, a really beneficial drill. And I think something that you can translate to skiing really well too.
Oh yeah, you got to be on that inside edge.
Exactly. So that's the start of balance and angulation, or balance and agility. Now we're gonna go try and do some on pavement too. All right, so we're back here on the pavement. Definitely feels different, huh? Yep. And that's really where this balanced stance is gonna come into play. Like I was saying before, if your weight's too far back, there's no way you're gonna do this comfortably or safely. So I'm gonna try a couple myself. Yeah, you can feel, like the moment that you're off balance, you can feel that, like I almost wanted to slip back a little bit. Big piece of advice is keep your upper body as quiet as possible.
Yeah.
So that's agility and balance. We got to do those one-leggers too. So really important, keep your weight nice and balanced. One skate to the next skate. And like in this road, I could even use this center line, make sure I'm getting over it. And that's it. So, like, there's no limit to how much you could do that stuff.
Right.
Like, we could stand here for 2 hours just doing balance and agility drills, and you're only going to get better and better and better.
Yeah.
So, step one, practice that. And now we're going to do some angulation turns, which we kind of started doing 2 weeks ago, but we're going to kind of take it to another level here. Okay, so now we're going to work on our angulation turns, which if we were to talk in skiing terms, this is basically carves.
Right.
Now, something that we talked about 2 weeks ago when we did the intro and phase one is there's no side cut on these things. So you actually require a little bit of femur steering. You have to tip yourself or turn the skates into the turn, which actually is really beneficial because it makes you practice skier input.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna we're gonna skate down there, we're gonna skate back, we're gonna get some speed, and then we're gonna just try and make consistent medium radius carves. And this is pretty flat here, a little bit of downslope, but I think this is a pretty perfect spot for people just getting started. We're gonna wait for this car to go by and then we'll get started. All right, so we're way down here now. I think we got enough room here. This is beautifully fresh pavement, which I'm very thankful for. And all we're gonna do, we're gonna take a couple strides. We'll call them those strides for power like we did in phase one. So we're gonna do a couple strides for power, and then once we get enough momentum, we're gonna go straight into those medium radius carving turns. So I'm gonna start right in the middle, get up some speed, and then medium radius carves. And we really want consistency here. And I can actually feel that you have to turn that femur way more than you do on skis. You know, on skis you can just push against side cut. And you can't do that. Bob, what do you think? First reactions?
The inside foot's hard. You know?
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yep.
That outside skate feels pretty similar to the ski.
Yep.
But I'm definitely.
Yeah, you got to turn that inside femur a little bit.
I just don't trust it at this point.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, and that's one of the big benefits of doing these turns is this is where you start to kind of learn the limitations of your skates.
Right.
You know, and on skis that would be the limitations of your torsional stiffness and your edge grip. For here it's more the like tackiness of the rubber.
Right.
And the surface that you're skating on, but you get the same thing. If we were to put too much effort, too much skater input into a turn, you're going to wash out just the same. On skates it's called power sliding, which is, we'll get to it at the very end of this video. When you get onto some steeper terrain, it's kind of fun to feel that break free point. We're going to do it one more time here. We're going to work in a little bit more speed with the thought process that same thing with skis, the more skier input, the more skater input we put into these turns, the more energy we're going to get out of them. So a little bit more speed, a little bit more angulation, stuff like that.
Work on that inside edge.
Still nice medium radius turns. And a big thing to think about, if you've ever taken a ski lesson, if you've ever had a ski coach, I'm sure they have told you quiet upper body. So the same is true for skating. Even though we're generating all this power with our lower body, our upper body when we're doing these medium radius turns should stay pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Okay, so we went a little bit further back this time. We're gonna try and get a little bit more speed, and then we're gonna do a few more medium radius turns, kind of trying to work on a little bit more skier input.
Sounds good.
Let's do it. So, Bob, what'd you think? How'd you feel?
A little bit better.
Yep.
Just kind of getting the reps. Is this same on skates as it is on skis?
Yep.
You know, the more turns and strides you make, just the more that muscle memory is going to kick in, and the more control and balance you're going to have.
Now, Bob, would you say it's fair to say that you have thousands of hours on skis and perhaps single-digit hours on rollerblades.
I would be surprised if I'm over the 10-hour mark on rollerblades.
So let's say thousands of hours on skis and single-digit hours on rollerblades. Do you feel the similarities between the motions, the energy, the feedback from the skates versus feedback from the skis?
Yeah.
You feel all that?
You know, you don't get, you can't ride a tail
Nope.
like you can on a ski, and that's kind of the first big thing that you have to remember is there's no tail.
There's no tail.
So that's a big one. But other than that, like underfoot, if you think about, you know, where the center point of your boot is,
Yep.
the midsole on your boot, and where it hits the ski, like that's a very, very similar sensation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that there's no tail, I really think that's beneficial for the vast majority of skiers because it's teaching you a centered, balanced stance. So we're going to take that centered, balanced stance and we're now going to apply it to line jumps, which are easier than they sound, Bob. Don't worry.
Yeah, I don't know about anything jumps.
We're good. Worst case scenario, I can demonstrate them. But what we're going to do on this, we're just going to skate in a perfectly straight line, and with that balanced stance that we practiced in the grass and that we practiced here when we did our side-to-side jumps, instead of jumping side to side as we go forward, we're just going to jump. And that's all it is. And really, this is another drill to just hit home that balance point. You know, if your weight is too far forward, if your weight is too far back, it's just not going to work well. You know, on skis, like I have a preference for ollieing, if you will, where you're loading up the tail of the ski and kind of generating energy like that. We can't do that on these.
Right.
So we're going to have to stay nice and centered and really just some light, even, nice hops. Rollerblade recommends doing this like at a empty parking garage or something like that, somewhere where you can get a bunch of parking spaces in a row and use those lines to jump over. For our purposes here, we're just gonna jump. So
We can pretend.
we'll pretend that we're jumping over lines. So we'll head down here and do some line jumps. So this is about where we started for our medium radius turns. We're gonna get maybe the same speed that we got that first time. And just the key here is staying in an athletic position, and it doesn't take much. You know, you don't want to be flailing around with your upper body. There's really no upper body input to it at all. Just a little bit of pop, as I would describe it as a freestyle ski coach. So what do you think, Bob?
All right, are we looking for height? Are we looking for
No, we're looking neither.
style?
Neither.
All right,
I guess if anything, we're looking for control as a style.
sounds good.
So here we go. So get up some speed, nice athletic position, and jumps. And you know, I really feel like forward momentum helps you with this, because these jumps to me are far easier than the side-to-side jumps. So, Bob, another question for you. As a ex-competitive mogul skier, do you see the benefit in a drill like this crossing over to skiing like that?
Yeah, you know, and like kind of that more advanced mogul technique of pushing your tips down the backside of the mogul.
Yep.
You know, you really need to unweight the center of your area,
Yep.
your ski, of your balance.
But you stay in a balanced skier stance.
Right, that you're supposed to.
Yep.
So when you do that, when you jump and you're kind of, you know, in the moguls, when you're about to push your tips down the backside, that's kind of that feeling I got, right, kind of at the, I'd hesitate to call it the apex of my air, but you know.
I think that's a safe term. So yeah, for anybody that wants to, you know, work in what I would call more dynamic movements or more dynamic techniques into their skiing, this is a great place to start. It's a little bit less intimidating doing this than if you're going 30 miles an hour down a ski slope and then jumping in that scenario. To me, this is more controlled, less intimidating, slower speeds. It's really nice and warm out right now. So a great place to practice this, and you're gonna build muscle too. You know, if you do a bunch of jumps like this, you're building muscle too, as well as balance. So the next thing that we're gonna do, and I will just demonstrate this myself because my skates are a little bit more suited to it, but as we get more advanced in our skating, so Bob, if you were to take your skates and like angle your right skate as far as you could, eventually that brake is gonna hit. The brake also, you know, if you were skating backwards and you made a mistake, you could see how that would cause a bad situation, I'm sure. So as you get more advanced in skating, you may want to take your brake off. You'll notice that I don't have a brake on my skates, which is just personal preference, but we still need to be able to stop.
Right.
So the technique is called T-stops. And if you go back to phase one, when we talked about just standing, this is the best way to stand on a pair of rollerblades, is in a T with your feet pushed together. T-stopping is very similar. Instead of your feet together, they're gonna be spread out, and we're gonna put a lot of our weight on this front foot and basically just drag our back foot in a T. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll skate down there, come down here and do a T-stop real quick. Maybe I'll have Bob shoot it on the GoPro too while we're at it. All right, so I'm gonna get a bunch of speed here. Strides for power, remember from phase one? Striding for power. I got a lot of speed, so we'll see how fast I can stop. So as you could see, it took me a while to stop, right? So T-stops, they're not quite as efficient as your brake, but it's something that's really important to learn to do, especially if you want to kind of take your skating to the next level. Okay, so we did our balance and agility drills. We had a blast. We did our angulation turns. That was probably my favorite part so far. We did our line jumps and we did our T-stops. And now the last thing that we're gonna do today is skating uphill. And then on the way back down, we're gonna do some of those angulation turns, but with more pitch. And that's when you can really start lengthening your turns and stuff like that. Quick note here, everything that we've done up to this point largely is focused on technique. You know, we're focusing on balance, our strides, everything like that. Once you get that down, you can start kind of reaping the benefits, the other benefits of rollerblading as a cross-training tool, and that's the actual fitness. So this skating uphill is gonna bring back horrid memories of being a Nordic ski racer, and is really gonna tire me out after running a 5K yesterday. But we're gonna go skate up that hill, and yeah, let's go do that. Okay, so here we are. I've got this hill in front of me, which is pretty daunting. My advice to anyone relatively new to skating is start on a less aggressive hill than this, both for the uphill skating and for the downhill. When we're doing those angulation turns on a slope, if you're on a pretty steep slope, you can really start to, you know, kind of lose control and get ahead of yourself, so to speak. So the key here is going to be quickness. So when we did those strides for power, we really talked a lot about gliding onto one leg and staying on that one leg. This is going to be much more inside edge, inside edge, inside edge, inside edge, inside edge, inside edge, and we're gonna have to get into a pretty quick cadence the steeper we get. So here we go. This is really where you're gonna have to pick up the cadence. Whew. So you could see just how much quicker I had to skate once we got up into the steeps. All right, so now I've got this sweet hill in front of me, and I'm gonna be able to get a ton of momentum. And for this, we're gonna take those mid-radius turns that we practiced before, and we're gonna make them longer radius turns. All right, so I'm gonna start here. I'm not gonna skate for speed at all because I don't wanna get going too fast. I'm gonna try and use this whole roadway to link some bigger radius turns. My upper body got a little out of sorts there. All right, that was pretty sweet. So I felt more comfortable as I got to the bottom of that slope rather than the top of that slope. At the top, it's pretty steep, and I was starting to feel like my skates weren't really gonna hold. As I got down here into this flat bottom, I really felt like I could make some pretty sweet, bigger radius turns. So I'm gonna skate up there one more time. I really think that's all I got in me. And then I'm gonna come back down one more time, do some big carves, and we'll call it a day. All right, so that was Skate to Ski program phase 2. Charlotte, what'd you think?
Yes or no? Yeah.
Yeah. Bob, so as someone fairly new to rollerblading, what's your assessment and how do you feel after going through some drills?
I mean, obviously from the last time I skated just down this road, much better than just from putting them on.
Yeah.
So even just that little bit of time is, you know, a noticeable improvement in my own comfort.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like I said before, I think this is a really important stage. So spend some time on this, you know, especially if you want to come with us into phase 2 and phase 4. And I'm going to do like phase 5.
Whoa.
We're going to make up our own phases.
All right.
It's going to be sweet.
We can have letters.
Maybe like do some 360s and stuff. But yeah, if you want to continue with us through the next couple phases, if you're not comfortable on skates to the point where you can do everything we did today without feeling uncomfortable or scared, I definitely encourage you to spend quite a bit of time on phase 2. You know, do those side-to-side jumps. Like, those are hard. You know, even for me, I've been skating pretty much my whole life. It's still tricky to do those on pavement, and great practice. So spend some time here, and next time you see us, we'll be, we might have poles in our hands.
Whoa, weird.
We might be using some gates. It's gonna be pretty sweet. So we'll see you then. And yeah, I hope you guys can get out and do some skating. All done.